Most altcoins are one-hit wonders. They come up very quickly, it's a pump, then a subsequent dump. Now, Cardano is not such a cryptocurrency. It's at least a two-hit wonder. Maybe it's going to be a three-hit wonder. That's a big question of this video. Have a look at Cardano relative to Bitcoin. We had a very nice rally in 2018. Many altcoins during the ICO boom rallied at the time. But the vast majority of alts, they stayed down. Not so for Cardano. Cardano did see another spring. So is history going to repeat itself? Is this the time to buy Cardano when nobody is watching? Is this the time to potentially outperform the market by more than 1,000%? Now, even though Cardano fell relatively speaking in the last 4 years, if we compared to all cryptocurrencies, not just to Bitcoin, it actually did climb up the ranks. There's a very interesting website, coinmarketcap.com/historical. This shows us snapshots of the top 100 cryptocurrencies at a given day in a given year. And so let's look at October of 2017. At the time, Cardano was at place number 14. It was the 14th largest cryptocurrency, and there were many other cryptocurrencies that nobody is talking about anymore. Now there's also BitConnect, that's at number 9. You might remember BitConnect, here it is. And so the implosion of that Ponzi scheme also helped, of course, Cardano, relatively speaking. But ADA didn't go from place 14 to 13. It is now at number 10. Again, despite the massive underperformance versus Bitcoin over the last years. Zcash at the time was at 16. Zcash is at 16 today as well. Now here's the Cardano dominance chart. How much of all of crypto is currently in Cardano if we just compare market cap? We are currently at 0.46%. And we tend to top out at 4.6%. In other words, there's a 10x volatility here. And we seem to be bouncing from a floor that was established at the end of 2019, at the beginning of 2020. Now, interestingly enough, this chart here looks very similar to another chart where we already have a resolution of what happened afterwards. Check this out. This is the Ethereum dominance chart. This hovers between 7 and 21%. It saw a bottom forming in April of this year, and subsequently we had a massive rally. By the way, if this is not your very first time watching this channel, then feel free to subscribe over here. I publish videos regularly, and when you're subscribed, YouTube is more likely to recommend the videos of this channel again. Ethereum outperformed the rest of crypto by more than 100%. And there was a reason, there was a narrative. The strategic Ethereum reserve companies that now acquire ETH. And so for Cardano's dominance to bounce in a similar fashion, to maybe not just make 100%, but maybe 200, 300, 400%, we will need some kind of narrative as well, right? We need to have some catalyst that brings back optimism. The market cap is already very low. Now let's have a look at the adoption metrics for Cardano. How is the usage of the blockchain developing over time? What could be the next narrative? What we're seeing over here, that's the TVL, the total value locked on the Cardano chain. Unfortunately, this is not going up recently, but a lot of that decline is simply the Cardano price itself going down. When we measure the TVL in ADA, the trend isn't great either, but at least it's not as negative as the US dollar based trend. What you've got over here, that's the chain fees over time, measured in US dollars. Unfortunately, not much growth here either. What we've got here, that's the number of active addresses. It seems to spike every now and then. It's now at a somewhat consistent level of around 20,000 per day. Here's the decentralized exchange trading volume. Also, every now and then there is a spike, but the absolute numbers aren't really that big, right? It's just a couple of million per day. We just need something that can reignite attention, that can reignite excitement again. The price is already very, very low. The valuation is very low, and also the leverage in the asset via the perpetual futures is also low. So once there is positive news around Cardano, the price can shoot up very, very quickly. Have a look at the leverage in Cardano. This is the open interest on various perpetual futures exchanges. So that's shown over here in green. And while this is not at historical levels, relative to the Cardano price, it is pretty low. When we were at similar open interest levels, Cardano was above $1. Now we are at 40 cents. So if the open interest was to double again, which happened several times in the past, the price could easily triple. I'm not certain if you're going to hit the $3 again, but hitting $1 is definitely very much possible. But of course, in the end, it also depends what the general market is doing. US dollar valuations are dependent on liquidity flows. If what we have seen so far in 2026 is representative of what's going to happen for the rest of the year, then of course Cardano will go up as well. The big question is, will we see outperformance? And it does appear to me as if the potential risk versus the potential reward looks very attractive. Unfortunately, the fundamentals right now do not support any rally. We need to get some kind of narrative that can reignite excitement again. If you got some value out of this video, feel free to subscribe. I publish this regularly. A like would be very much appreciated as well. If you want to copy trade everything that I personally do, then feel free to check out the premium membership. This is also where you can simply invest your capital and then automatically mirror my trading. See you next time in YouTube or see you in premium. Cheers.